Have you ever felt overwhelmed by doubts, fears, and the endless uncertainties life throws at you? In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to forget the quiet strength that resides within. Through the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, we are reminded that true power lies not in controlling external events, but in mastering our own minds. In this video, you'll discover how to unlock your inner resilience, embrace adversity with clarity, and walk your path with courage, even when the way is unclear. Stay with us as we journey through profound insights inspired by Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, wisdom that will help you remain steady, free, and deeply grounded amidst the storms of life. Let's begin this transformative journey together. I am strong enough to face challenges. In every moment of challenge, when insecurity quietly seeps into my mind, when doubt whispers in my ear that I am not strong enough to keep going, I choose to remind myself of one truth. I am strong enough to face everything that comes my way. Life never promised me a smooth road. Each new day brings uncertainty, unfinished tasks, unresolved problems. And in those moments, it's easy to give up. To let the mind be overwhelmed with questions like, what if I fail, or what if I can't handle it? But it is precisely in those times that I remember, strength is not the absence of fear, but the ability to move forward even when I tremble. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means I do not have to control the world. I only need to control my response to it. True strength does not lie in knowing all the answers but in trusting that I will find a way, that I will learn, adapt, and keep moving forward. I think back to times when I believed I couldn't survive, yet somehow, I rose again, continued onward. Those memories are undeniable proof that I have been strong. And I continue to grow stronger each day. When I step back and observe my fear, I realize that most insecurities are merely illusions crafted by imagination. The longer I hesitate, the bigger the fear grows. But the moment I act, even just one small step, the fear immediately shrinks. Like standing before cold water, the longer you hesitate, the colder it feels, but once you immerse yourself, you realize you can endure it. Strength is not perfection. Strength is the commitment to keep walking, even when the path ahead is uncertain. Every step forward, every failure, every moment I dare to start again, is a silent victory. So each morning, I remind myself, I am strong enough to face the challenge. No matter how chaotic the outside world may be, my mind can remain steady. Whether or not what I hope for comes to pass, I will keep moving forward with perseverance and courage. I do not need to know exactly what will happen today. I only need to know that I am strong enough to walk through it. And that belief frees me from anxiety, from the paralysis of fear, and brings me back to inner freedom, where I no longer need everything to be perfect, only need myself to be willing to act. I shape the world by how I perceive it. The world I live in is not merely built by external events, it is shaped by how I perceive and interpret them. The same circumstance. One person sees opportunity, another sees failure. The same criticism, one takes it as a stepping stone for growth, another sees it as an unhealable wound. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This means that the world does not define me. How I think and react truly defines the world I experience. Every day, I encounter situations beyond my control, traffic jams, careless words from others, outcomes that fall short of expectations. But I have the power to choose how I receive them. I can be angry at a rude person, or I can see it as an opportunity to practice patience. I can sink into failure, or view it as a stepping stone to growth. By choosing how I perceive things, I paint my own world. If I drown myself in resentment, the world becomes full of injustice. If I choose gratitude, the world becomes full of opportunities and grace. I realize that every negative thought not only distorts how I see reality but also directly impacts my emotions, decisions, and even my future. Each time I choose to perceive with awareness and trust, I am planting seeds of serenity in my mind. To practice this, I learn to pause during moments of agitation. When facing an unexpected event, I ask myself, is there a better way to see this? What lesson is here for me? These questions open the door to calmness, to clear thinking, and to a heart no longer swept away by fleeting emotions. Inner freedom does not come from changing the world, it comes from changing how I feel about it. When I control my perspective, I control my mood, my peace, and the direction of my life. Thus, every morning, I remind myself, I shape the world by how I perceive it. And by doing so, I choose a world where I can live fully, mindfully, and courageously. I know where I am going and why. Life is like a journey through the fog. Sometimes, I cannot see the entire path ahead. Unexpected turns and unforeseen obstacles may cause me to waver, to doubt myself, even to want to stop. But I understand that clarity does not come from knowing all the answers. It comes from knowing where I am going, and why. Epictetus once said, "First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This reminds me that a goal is not just a destination, it is the direction that guides every step I take. When I am clear about what I pursue, distractions and temptations lose their power over me. Ambiguity is inevitable, but I choose not to let it paralyze me. I do not need to see the whole road ahead. I only need to walk firmly with an inner compass, the values I believe in, the principles I am committed to living by. These are what draw the path forward, one step at a time. I know there will be days when I am torn between many choices. But instead of drowning in anxiety, I ask myself, which path reflects the person I want to become? That question, though simple, is the lantern that lights my way through the darkness. I learn to trust the power of small steps. Like a mountaineer, I don't need to see the peak from the foot of the mountain. I only need to place my foot firmly on the next rock in front of me. Each small step, however humble, is carrying me closer to my goal. Even when the path changes, even when life forces me into unexpected turns, I no longer panic. I understand that as long as I remain faithful to my values and goals, every change is simply part of a larger journey. Each morning, I remind myself, I know where I am going and why. I do not need certainty. I only need to keep the inner flame alive, and continue forward with trust, patience, and a free spirit. I make progress every day, even in the smallest steps. In a world of instant expectations, it is easy to feel like I am falling behind. When grand achievements don't come immediately, when positive changes only show themselves subtly, I might fall into the trap of thinking I am not progressing. But the truth is, every step forward, no matter how small, is still progress. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." What I face does not block my journey, it is the journey itself. Every difficulty, every failure, every time I dare to stand up and try again, all are bricks quietly building my inner strength. Progress is not always glamorous. It hides in silent moments. When I choose patience over anger. When I persist in practicing even when no one is watching. When I face failure without losing faith in myself. I learn to acknowledge small victories. A conversation where I truly listened. A morning when I woke up early to pursue my goals. A hard decision made according to my values rather than fear. These seemingly trivial acts are quietly transforming me. Each day, I do not demand perfection from myself. I only ask to be better than I was yesterday, even if only by a fraction. I no longer measure my worth by immediate grand results, but by the unwavering commitment to growth. And even when failure knocks on my door, I no longer see it as the end. Failure is simply a lesson, a reminder that this journey is about growing, not about being flawless. Thus, I start each day with this reminder. I make progress every day. even in the smallest steps. Every effort, every act of kindness, every extra ounce of perseverance, is silently leading me toward a better version of myself. I live by my own high standards. In a noisy world where recognition often comes from the gaze of others, I choose a different path, living by the standards I set for myself. These standards are not for show, nor for comparison with anyone else. They are a silent commitment between me and myself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." These words remind me that dignity is not something I can borrow from the outside world. Dignity is built from the smallest actions, carried out with integrity, even when no one is watching. I do not live to appear perfect in the eyes of others. I live to be true to the deepest values within my heart. I do good work, not because I need praise, but because I take pride when I look back at myself. I keep my promises, not because I fear losing others' trust, but because I refuse to betray myself. Excellence does not arise from grand moments. It is forged through small, consistent practices. How I start a day, how I treat others, how I face unseen failures. Each small choice, each act of kindness, is a silent affirmation. I am committed to living by my own standards. I learn to be patient with the process but not lenient with myself. When tired, I allow myself to rest. But I do not quit. When I fail, I allow myself to grieve, but I do not diminish my own worth. Because I know, excellence is not about never falling. Excellence is about getting up each time, and choosing the right action, even when it is hard. Each day, I remind myself, I live by my own high standards. No one but me can determine my dignity. And in that silent loyalty, I find inner freedom, a freedom that no one can give, and no one can take away. I make no excuses, I take responsibility. In the hardest moments, it is easy to seek excuses. I'm too busy, I'm not lucky enough, others are holding me back. Such justifications may ease the sting of failure temporarily. But I realize they also bind me in helplessness. Each time I make an excuse, I surrender the power to shape my own life. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." If that is true, real strength lies not in circumstances, but in my response. I can keep blaming the outside world, or I can rise and take responsibility for my next step. When I make excuses, I hand over the steering wheel of my life to forces beyond my control. But when I accept responsibility, I take the wheel back. I don't need perfect conditions to move forward. I only need the courage to start from where I am, with what I have. Taking responsibility does not mean blaming myself or drowning in guilt. It means I acknowledge reality, I see what I can improve, and I act. No matter how small the progress. No matter how often failure recurs. I blame no one, not even myself. I simply continue. Whenever I feel the urge to make excuses, I stop and ask, is there something I could do differently? That question opens a door, the door to true freedom. Because when I take responsibility, I am no longer a victim of circumstances. I become the architect of my own future. I understand. No one else can live my life for me. No one else can take responsibility for it but me. Every excuse only delays the journey I need to walk. Every action, however small, is a step toward the person I want to become. Each day, I remind myself. I make no excuses, I take responsibility. I do not need anyone's permission to begin. I do not need perfect conditions to move forward. I only need one decision. To act instead of excuse. To take initiative instead of complain. And that choice, repeated day after day, is quietly building a free, resilient, and unshakable version of myself. I am meant to reach my highest potential. Deep within every human being lies extraordinary potential. A potential not limited by circumstance, not defined by the past, but patiently waiting to be awakened through choice and persistent action. I believe that I was not born to live an ordinary life. I was created to reach my highest potential. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This is not a call to chase success at all costs. It is a reminder of a sacred duty, to live true to the best version of myself. Potential is not something ready-made in my hands. It is forged every time I step out of my comfort zone. Every time I face my fear and choose not to quit. Each act of perseverance. Each choice of value over fleeting emotion. Brings me closer to the person I can become. I learn to see greatness in the smallest things. Greatness does not only reside in resounding victories. It also shows itself in how I listen patiently. How I preserve kindness even in adversity. How I remain honest with myself even when no one is watching. Some days, the journey will feel exhausting. Some days, I will wonder if I am truly making progress. But even in those moments, I remember. Every effort counts. Every good choice has value. Every day lived fully nourishes my inner strength. I do not need to compare myself with others. My potential is not measured by anyone's standards but my own. I strive toward my highest self, not to outshine others, but to truly live a life of meaning and fulfillment. Every morning, I remind myself, I am meant to reach my highest potential. I do not need perfect conditions, nor permission. All I need is the courage to keep moving, the trust to endure, and gratitude for the opportunity to grow each day. I am the one who defines my worth, not the world. The world out there will always have opinions. People will praise when I succeed, doubt when I fail, and judge even when they do not understand the journey I am walking. If I let every comment sway me, I would end up living someone else's life, not my own. Marcus Aurelius once reminded, "We love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." A painful paradox. True worth does not come from applause or criticism. Worth is something I quietly build from within. Through each action, each choice, each principle I uphold in silence. I do not deny the value of feedback or advice. But I learn to listen mindfully, without allowing any voice to make me lose myself. I filter what I hear. I keep what helps me grow, and release what merely reflects others' limitations. I understand that everyone sees me through the lens of their own experiences, fears, and expectations. Those lenses do not reflect the truth of who I am. Only I, through my daily actions, have the right to decide who I am and who I will become. When I live honestly with my values, I do not need universal approval. I do not need to please everyone. I only need to keep my heart steady. Because true freedom does not come from being accepted, but from knowing that I am living true to myself. There will be times when I am misunderstood. There will be times when I fail in the eyes of others. But as long as I act with integrity, courage, and compassion, I know I am on the right path. And that peace, no one can take away from me. Each day, I remind myself, I am the one who defines my worth, not the world. I choose to stand firm amid the storms. I choose to trust my own journey. Because in the end, the person I must honor most, is myself. I choose to live fully in this moment. Life does not happen in the past that has gone, nor in the future that has yet to come. Life truly exists right here. Right now, in each breath, each heartbeat. Yet I realize that most of the time, I am buried in what has been lost or anxious about what has not yet happened. Marcus Aurelius once advised, "Confine yourself to the present." Such a simple piece of advice holds extraordinary power. When I let go of the past and stop clinging to the future, my mind becomes clear. I am no longer dragged by memories or assumptions, I begin to truly feel life. I learn to observe my mind as if watching a flowing river. Thoughts of yesterday pass by. Worries about tomorrow also pass by. I do not need to cling to anything. I simply need to be present, to breathe, to pay attention to the only moment I truly hold, this moment. Whenever I get swept into the vortex of anxiety, I ask myself, what can I do right now? That question brings me back to solid ground, where real action begins. I cannot fix the past. I cannot guarantee the future. But today, I can choose kindness in how I treat others. I can choose courage in my decisions. I can choose love in my words. Living fully in the moment does not mean abandoning long-term goals. On the contrary, it is the strongest foundation for building the future. For every future is woven from present moments. When I invest fully in each moment, I am investing in my life itself. I understand that the most precious things, joy, connection, inner peace, can only be experienced when I am fully present. Not haunted by the past, not distracted by the future, but simply living and feeling. Each day, I remind myself. I choose to live fully in this moment. Because only when I am fully present do I truly live, truly experience freedom, and truly touch the deepest values of life. I master my emotions to master my life. Emotions are an inseparable part of being human. They illuminate my soul with joy, love, inspiration. But at times, they flood me with anger, fear, sadness. If I let emotions lead, my life would drift like a rudderless boat in a storm. Epictetus once taught, it's not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. Emotions do not create reality on their own. It is how I interpret reality that fuels or soothes the emotional storms within me. I do not deny emotions. I allow myself to feel them. But I refuse to let them control my actions. When anger arises, I do not react immediately. I step back, breathe, and observe. I ask myself, will this anger lead me to what I truly desire? With that mindfulness, I keep my mind clear. I choose responses aligned with my values, not driven by fleeting impulses. I choose calm in chaos. I choose forgiveness in pain. I choose patience in disappointment. I realize that each time I master my emotions, I am also mastering my destiny. I am no longer a victim of external events. I become the architect of my life, through awareness, inner freedom, and the courage to choose the harder but truer path. It is not easy. There will be times I stumble, moments I speak rashly. Times I act out of fear. But in each instance, I do not blame myself. I quietly extract the lesson, adjust my course, and continue the practice. Every morning, I remind myself. I master my emotions to master my life. I do not need to suppress all emotions. I only need to stand steady among them, like a steadfast sailor in a vast ocean. Knowing that every storm will eventually pass, but the strength and direction I hold within will endure. I live by values, not by emotions. Emotions come and go like clouds across the sky. Sometimes they are radiant like sunrise, other times they are dark like a storm. If I let emotions dictate my path, my life would become a chaotic journey. Thus, I choose to anchor myself in unchanging values, values that define the person I want to become. Marcus Aurelius once reminded, do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. This teaching shows me that the only thing I truly control is my choice, to live according to conscience, regardless of the momentary emotions raging inside. There are times I feel anger and want revenge. But my value is compassion. There are times I feel fear and want to hide. But my value is courage. There are times I feel despair and want to give up. But my value is perseverance. When I prioritize values over emotions, I no longer act blindly. I act with clarity, with a clear purpose. with loyalty to myself. I understand that emotions are merely signals, not commands. They inform me of what's happening inside, but they do not dictate my actions. I have the right to choose. To listen, to understand, and then to decide based on what I believe is right, not merely based on what I feel. Living by values is not about suppressing emotions. It is about inner maturity. Feeling emotions without being swept away by them. Listening without losing control of my own direction. Each day, I remind myself. I live by values, not by emotions. Because ultimately, what defines who I am is not what I feel, but how I choose to live, despite those feelings. I let go of anxiety to find inner freedom. Anxiety is an invisible shadow that follows me in my most uncertain moments. It whispers dark assumptions, weaving scenarios that may never happen. If I let anxiety control me, I imprison myself within a cage built by my own mind. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Anxiety arises when I try to control things beyond my reach, the future, other people, life's unexpected turns. But when I release the need to control, I also release the burden of anxiety. I learn to distinguish between what I can control and what I cannot. My efforts, my integrity, my reactions, this is my domain. Others' opinions, ultimate outcomes. Sudden changes, this belongs to nature. When I focus on my own domain, I find strength. When I obsess over the outer world, I lose my freedom. Letting go of anxiety does not mean indifference. It means acting wholeheartedly within my influence, then serenely accepting what lies beyond. It is the balance between action and surrender, between effort and peace. Whenever anxiety arises, I stop and ask myself, is this within my control? If yes, I act. If no, I release it, like letting a leaf drift along a flowing stream. I realize that inner freedom does not come from everything being perfect, but from no longer imprisoning myself in fear. I choose to trust in my adaptability. In the inner strength I have been patiently cultivating every day. Every morning, I remind myself. I let go of anxiety to find inner freedom. I refuse to let fear of what has not yet happened steal today's life from me. I breathe deeply, walk slowly, and live fully in the serenity that only a free soul can feel. Every affirmation I repeat to myself is not just a set of words. They are seeds. Seeds of inner strength, mindfulness, and a life lived according to the purpose and values I have chosen. Not every day will be easy. There will be times when I forget, when I stumble, when I feel like I am back at the starting line. But each time, I return to these core principles, like a sailor finding his course again by the unwavering star. I understand that growth does not come from a single explosive moment, but from thousands of silent choices. Thousands of times I choose perseverance over giving up, integrity over compromise, mindfulness over being swept away by chaotic emotions. Each day is a new opportunity to practice, to step a little more firmly, to see a little more clearly, to live a little more freely. I do not aim for perfection. I aim for absolute honesty with my own journey of growth. And I believe that with patience, with courage, and with love for my own life, I will not merely live. I will live fully, meaningfully, and freely from within.